And then I was homeless the third time. The third time was really the difficult one.
Why?
Well, I was older.
Mm.
I was older. So it's easier when you're younger to be homeless because you go, well, I'm young. Figuring things out. No one's expecting you to have all your shit together at 20 years old or 21 years old.
So you've been busy. You've been doing a lot of stuff.
I have, yeah.
And you got a new show coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And you also recently got married.
I did.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
How did that feel?
It's this is going to sound so cheesy, and some people had said this to me before, and I kind of thought, oh, come on, man, save that for Instagram. Like, this seems kind of like you're posturing.
Sorry, can I just get you to make sure the mic stays in front of your mouth?
But it really was, I think, probably the best day of my life to this point, which makes total sense. When you think about it and you go, what's really gonna top this? Is like winning an award gonna top it? Is like the only thing I could think of, other than celebrating finding the love of your life and deciding together to do life together, and build a family and such and so forth, is maybe the birth of a child. Everything other than that is sort of secondary to that.
Right.
So it was tremendous, and you're surrounded by everyone that loves you, all your friends, and that you love them, and everyone's there to celebrate you guys, and it's pretty amazing.
It's a great moment.
Yeah, fantastic moment, and a lot of prep, man. A lot. I mean, my wife put in all of the work.
Yeah,
literally, and she absolutely knocked it out of the park. It was tremendous.
How did you two meet?
It's a funny story. We, two separate people that we knew, that did not know one another, both separately, just said, "Hey, have you met this girl?" And they showed me a picture of her, and I said, "No." And they said, "You guys would be good together. You should meet her." And then they messaged her. This one person messaged her and sent her a photo. And then she said, "No, he's too pretty." And I kind of went, "What the?" Okay. And then a month later, whatever, this other person randomly goes, "Have you ever met this girl?" I said, "No." And so they pulled up the picture, and I sort of smiled, and I said, "You send her a thing and see what she says." So she had the same response. And I said, "Would you ask her what she means by that?" And then she didn't respond. And then the first friend ended up sort of badgering her a bit and got her to agree to meet up. And then we didn't meet up, and we talked via text a little bit, and then finally I got to I grew up boxing, and that friend said, "Oh, she's into boxing." So I said, "Okay." So I messaged her.
Some common ground.
Yeah, and then she said, "Well, actually, I'm into Muay Thai." And I said, "Okay, well, I've been doing that as well. So let's go and have a training session." So we did that, and then it was a kind of a difficulty to get her to go for dinner. Asked her a few times, said, after the training session, I just said, "Hey, what are you doing on Wednesday? Do you want to get dinner?" And she went, "Oh, I'm busy. I got this thing." And I said, "Okay, no worries. What about Thursday? You want to get dinner Thursday?" And she said, "I'm busy." And I'm thinking, okay, that's strike two. And then I said, "Friday. You want to get dinner on Friday?" And she said, "I'm busy." And so I thought, okay, she's not into it. I'm gonna head out. And then something in me just said, ask her what she's doing on Saturday. And I shouted from across a parking lot, said, "Hey, so you want to get dinner on Saturday?" And she just sort of like her head peeked out from behind her car, and she went, "Yeah." And so there was a part of me that went, celebrated like, yes. And then another part went, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Did you ever ask her about it?
Yeah, she just said, "Well, I was busy." And she didn't even put together like, "Oh, well, maybe if I want to spend some time or hang out, get together, I should probably say, no, I'm busy that night, but I'm free Saturday."
Yeah, the follow-up.
Yeah, she never followed up.
Yeah.
So she just made me work for it. So, but it worked out.
Well, that's cool. And then you did a Muay Thai class together.
We did Muay Thai together, yeah.
I'm doing my first one on
Are you
Wednesday.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
I have
Where
no
you,
idea
where
what
are you
to
going?
expect. So a good buddy of mine is going to a gym. He's based up north, but he's going to a gym in Mississauga.
Yep.
And he was telling me how if I was ever interested in going with him, I don't have to go all the way up north to his gym.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to the one here near me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, we'll try it.
Nice. Have you done any fighting at all?
No, I started boxing pre-pandemic.
Okay.
And then as soon as the pandemic hit, stopped, haven't been able to get back into it. But it's something that I'm inclined to do because he's talked about how incredible it's been for his body. He said that before taking it up, he did karate growing up. But before he took up Muay Thai, is it Muay Thai or Muay Thai?
I mean, I think either.
Either.
But Muay
So
Thai, yeah.
he talked about how his back was at its worst. He was physically in pain all the time, and then after 6 months of doing it, he's in the best shape of his life. He's never felt so strong, like physically strong, and he sleeps better, minus all the injuries and the black eyes and all that stuff. He says it's probably been one of the biggest things to change his life around. So I'm excited to try it just for that reason, to see what the hype is about.
Man, I mean, I think it's probably one of the top most important things that a person can do. In particular, I think that a man can do,
Why?
It teaches you, I think it's important to be able to know how to handle yourself physically as a man. I mean, if you come into any sort of situation, let's say that you have a family or anything, and God forbid you get into a situation where you need to defend them. At least you can handle yourself and buy them time to get out of there. Right. And you carry yourself different. So typically, just how you interact with people will be different if you know how to handle yourself.
More confidence.
More confidence, yeah. And then also emotional regulation. So if you're in there and you're sparring and you get emotional, you're gonna get your ass kicked. I mean, if anyone knows what they're doing, they'll just bide their time, let you burn out, and then, teach you a couple lessons. Yeah. So you learn pretty quickly to handle your emotions, which I think is a huge, huge benefit for men. Men have especially if they don't feel confident, have a tendency to kind of go to anger and rage and sort of like
we've been taught that our entire lives.
Yeah.
Like that's the only emotion that's okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with that training, there's it just centers you, keeps you calm, especially in situations of conflict. I think being calm is a huge benefit, keeping your mind collected, and there's just such value to it.
Do you find it helps you regulate stress and anxiety and tension in other areas of your life?
For sure, yeah. Yeah.
So like
no doubt.
When you're going through the rounds, the auditions, all those things, and you may not get a favorable answer, as opposed to sort of sinking into that feeling, it helps you stay present and focused and moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're dealing with a stressful situation. Let's say that you're sparring. And when you do, I mean, they're not going to go hard on you, especially at the beginning, but it's still a nerve-wracking thing. So, and especially you get punched in the face. You get punched in the face, the normal reaction is, okay, that doesn't feel good. I'm out. I want to leave.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is going, no, I'm going to stay. And then through training you go, oh, I want to back away. But instead of backing away to give distance, right? You're not leaving the ring, but instead of backing away and giving distance, no, I'm going to stay, and I'm gonna roll with some of these punches. I'm going to keep my hands up. I'm going to do these things. So you're separating the mind from the emotion, which under any stressful situation, whether it's being in an audition, which is stressful, having a conversation out in the street or in a bar, in a restaurant or anywhere, that's stressful. So you're putting yourself in a stressful situation that you need to strengthen your mind and listen to your mind. So I think that's the sole purpose of God giving us a sound mind, is to be able to delineate. Like, emotions aren't the truth, right? Emotions are important.
Make some really bad decisions
too. Definitely can. Yeah. They're important, no doubt. But they're not the truth sayer. Right. That's what we have our mind for. That's why people go, calm down a second, calm down. Just think about it. Take a minute, go breathe, and then come back.
Breathing is such an important part of that.
Huge.
I mean, you
Huge.
hear it
Also,
all the
if you don't
time.
breathe when you're in there,
Oh,
I mean,
you're gonna gas
you're
out
gonna need
quick.
to breathe when you punch and kick.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, you'll gas out real quick.
So how did you even get into this? Because it seems like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it for?
You're talking about the entertainment business.
Well, the Muay Thai part, because it seems like it forms a foundation of how you carry yourself today.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was 12, I mean, I started playing hockey when I was young.
Okay.
And then in hockey, there's fighting.
Yep.
And then my dad put me in boxing at around 12 years old, and weightlifting. And my dad actually was a bodybuilder here in Canada. And so he had said, okay, you should go in boxing and learn how to handle yourself. So I did that. And initially actually started in kickboxing. And then I got transferred to, when I was 13, I got transferred to a new school in the middle of the year. And then with that, like, you don't know anyone. And people, kids want to test you. They want to pick on you. They want to see, like, what they can get away with.
Sure.
And my dad had said to me, first day of school, dropping me off, he said, listen, I want you to understand something. You earn your respect, and you don't let anyone take your things or pick on you. If someone does, you fight them. And then as long as you give them a black eye or a fat lip, they'll leave you alone. And then no one will pick on you. And so I said, okay. And that was nerve-wracking. I mean, you're going to school with some anxiety, being like, oh, God, what do I got to...
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna have to fight somebody today.
Yeah.
And then I got in a couple of fights. And then no one... I stopped getting in fights because people were like, oh, he'll fight you.
Yeah.
And then obviously with training, as you train more and more, you just get better and more proficient at it. And so then you start realizing, oh, I can actually kind of hurt people with this. And then comes the responsibility of doing that and the regulation of your emotion and going like, yeah, I shouldn't do that. That's not, I'm in a position, by and large, that if you just fly off the handle and want to get violent with somebody, it's not going to look good on you. Like, you're not going to go into the gym and be like, oh yeah, I fucked this guy up. And they'd be like, who? The guy doesn't even train. And you just like what did he do? And if it wasn't that he did something serious, then what are you? You're a bully, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I've never been a fan of bullies. I don't like bullies. So, for me, it was always, what is the right thing? How do you correct people in the best way without having to be violent, without having to do those things? And then you get so much stuff out of the gym, You're getting any frustrations out. I have a bag at my home. Hit the bag if I get too frustrated. I'm like, let me be back. I go in the garage, hit the bag for a bit.
Yeah.
But
it's a fantastic outlet.
Huge.
And I think more people need to take it upon themselves to find a gym or get some sort of outlet, some sort of physical outlet.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes guys will hold a lot of those emotions in, and then eventually it'll boil to the surface and comes out in really negative ways.
Correct, yeah.
And then you end up hurting yourself, you end up hurting others, whether intentional or not, right? And then where it comes back to that point about the anger piece. It's like you're just walking around angry all the time.
All the time,
pent
yeah.
up, ready to just lash out at anybody or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say then to guys who are walking around carrying that kind of anger? Would you recommend they start with boxing? Would you recommend they start with Muay Thai? Would you recommend they just simply go to a gym?
I mean, Muay Thai is great. By gym, you mean like just lifting weights?
Anything, yeah.
I think that measuring yourself against another person is important. It also keeps you in check. The nice thing about a boxing gym or a Muay Thai gym is that if someone's an asshole, you're going to get called out and there's a ring right there.
Right.
So it keeps people in check in a big way. And there's also a lot of people in those gyms come from hardship. So you have to have the mentality to overcome that, and that is fostered there. You know,
Mhm.
there's a reason why Rocky is one of the biggest movies ever. You know, there's a reason why it speaks to everyone. There's a reason
Yeah.
why if we put on Eye of the Tiger, you're going, okay, I can do this in my life. Like you have a meeting or something to go to, and you're playing Eye of the Tiger, being like, all right, I'm let's go.
Yeah.
And the reason is because it speaks to the mentality of overcoming something that people telling you that you can't overcome that as a kid or growing up or whatever. You're a loser. You can't do this. You can't do that. And Rocky, everyone's telling me he's a bum.
Hmm.
And then, oh, you're going to lose. It's not happening for you. And then he just keeps going, and then ends up, you know, the fight of his life,
Sure.
overcoming, doing better than everyone thought that he could ever do, and eventually becoming a champ. And you go, oh. And that's why we look at fighters nowadays. We look at Conor McGregor. We look at, you know, Mike Tyson. We look at Ali. We're looking at all these guys going, oh, my God, you know, particularly Ali, you know, for me. You go, wow, this guy overcame a lot, you know, a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure that it was either Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson got their bike stolen. I think it was Ali. Got their bike stolen. Went in to a boxing gym to learn how to beat up the person who stole their bike, and then becoming a world champion.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that story before.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the origin story of one of the greatest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Ali. I mean, we could look it up.
So what was your moment? What was the moment that you had to overcome some adversity and get yourself from feeling like you can't do it to doing it? Was it in the entertainment industry? Was it on a personal note?
I mean, certainly in the entertainment business,
It's rough out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of setbacks that can happen.
Yeah.
I've been homeless 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. Lived out of the back of my truck when I was 20 years old. No, 21 years old. Lived out of the back of my truck for just about a year. And then also, you know, crashing on friends' couches here and there.
Yeah.
And then again when I was
If I can ask,
30?
what spawned the going homeless part? Like, what triggered that?
Oh, I just didn't have money.
Right.
So as a Canadian, you know, when you go over to the States, and I guess I was a stubborn kid. I just wasn't going to go home. You know, I started acting. I got a show. They decided to film the show in Los Angeles. Got me my working visa. Went out there, shot this show. And then my visa expired. And then I just had no money, really. And then I got another job that paid a little bit of cash, not much. But I still had my working papers. But the way that the visas worked is that whoever gave you the visa, so whatever company gave you the visa, whether it was Universal or, you know, Warner Brothers or whoever, you can only work for them. You can't just work for anyone else.
Right, yeah.
So I couldn't go do guest stars or recurrings. It had to be a series regular. It had to be a big part in a movie. It had to be something like that. So that kind of forges in you a bit of a work ethic where you go, okay, well, I have to buckle down, have to figure this out. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to feed myself. I'm not going to be able to, you know, pay the rent. And some of those opportunities, especially when you don't have much of a resume, like most people build their resume up. And I wasn't really able to do that. It was only go for the big stuff or go home. And I was like, well, I'm not going home. And so I stayed, ran out of money, lived out of the back of my truck with a friend of mine, Justin Chatwin, and we we thought it was, I guess we kind of thought it was cool because we were younger, and then I ended up, after a year of doing that, I ended up getting another show as a series regular on this sitcom called Complete Savages. So then I filmed that, and then sometime, maybe 10 years later, I think I was homeless again, briefly. stayed on friends' couches and did that sort of stuff. And then I was homeless the third time. The third time was really the difficult one.
Why?
Well, I was older.
Hmm.
I was older. So it's easier when you're younger to be homeless because you go, well, I'm young, figuring things out. No one's expecting you to have all your shit together
Right.
at 20 years old or 21 years old. So that was when you're older and someone's going like, hey, you want to go for dinner? You want to do this? And you go like, oh yeah, I can't afford that. I gotta buckle down. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna sleep in my car tonight. And they're like, what do you mean? You're like 35 years old. Why are you sleeping in your car? So I think there's an element of shame that comes with that and embarrassment. But I think particularly if you put and this is what I realized, if you put your value in your work, your identity, in making money, in status, in doing well in whatever profession you choose to do, which is a dangerous thing, because then
It's all wrapped up in the
it's all wrapped up. It's the stakes become incredibly high in that regard, and you lose. I think when stakes become really high, it makes it really hard to have freedom, take risks, right, and excel, because you're tightly wound. So I had a moment where I was with this manager at the time, and I said, hey, what's going on? I've only had a few auditions. Back then there was a thing called pilot season. And I said, I've only had a few auditions, and each audition you send me for, pretty much, let's say 3 out of the 4, I'm up for. I'm in the mix, or I'm testing for, or something. Which if you don't know, in the entertainment business, let's say that you go out for a show, a test is where the producers like you and decide, yes, we're interested in you for this role, so let's draft up a contract. So your agent calls business affairs, or business affairs calls them, or whatever, and they begin negotiations. So they negotiate your episodic fee, and then you get out your contract all sorted. Let's say it's a 6-year contract or whatever, and then you have to go in to a room where there's a bunch of executives, 10, 12, 15 execs, and they sit there silently, and you go, hey guys, how you doing? And no one says anything. And you go, you guys good? And no one says anything again. Maybe one person has some empathy and goes, hey, yeah, we're good. Like, hope you're good. Crush it. But by and large, they don't typically say anything. And then you read, you do your audition, which is nerve-wracking. And back then they had you would have a studio audition. And then you would find out if you made it past that. If they decided, yes, you've made the cut, and they would cut, let's say there was 4 people testing for this role or something, and they'd cut 2 of them, or 1 of them, and then 2 or 3 would advance to the network, and then you'd go into the network and you'd do the same type of thing, and then you'd wait, for your phone to ring from your agent to tell you if you got it or if you didn't. So that's what that is, and that was always, I kind of saw it as a rite of passage in a way. People going like, can they handle the stress of this? If they can, then they can carry a show, because there's stresses that come along with that. But I had this manager, and I had said, hey, what's going on? I haven't gotten many auditions. It's been a couple of years of this, and they were like, oh, and she just said, look, we called some casting directors and talked to them, and no one wants to see you. And I said, oh. And I said, yeah, this manager told me that the casting director had said, hey, we really like Shaun. He's had his day in the sun. He's done. And I went, oh, wow, okay. And so I got off the phone, and I was, hurting for cash, like running out of money. And I thought, oh shit, I guess I could go work in the oil fields, do that, make some money, pay off whatever debts I have, and buy a house or something. It's dangerous work. And then I thought, nah, I'm not going to be happy doing that. And so I went, well, I guess I'm just in it. This is the business I've chosen. This is the career I have. And so I went, okay. And then I went, and I had a conversation with God. And I just said, okay, I've clearly been putting my faith in the wrong things here. I put my value in work, my career, I guess status, money. And I went, that's insane. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give everything to you. I'll go wherever you want. I'll keep up my end. I'll work hard. I'm going to work diligently and hard. I'm not going to fret about the results. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to keep the anxiety out of it. That's all yours. And I'm just going to work hard. And then so he said, okay. And we both embarked on that. And then I went through, went further down. No money. You get into debt just simply by feeding yourself.
Sure.
Went backstage with my parents for like 5 months. Had to leave my dog with my brother. Kept working hard, but nothing happening. And then I decided, you know what, I'm firing everybody. And so I fired everybody on my team. And my friends told me, and this was like a year later, the next sort of pilot season thing. And they said, dude, you just fired everyone on your team. You're crazy. What are you doing? And I told them, no, they're not doing their job. They're not working. And so they said, but you have no one. Who's going to set you up with meetings or anything? Like, what are you going to do? And I said, it's all right. God will take care of it. And they went, dude, you're out of your mind. And so I said, okay, it's all right. And then, a few weeks went by, and then one of my good friends, this guy Jeremy McCassie, said to me, hey, you need a manager, right? And I said, yeah. So he said, I know somebody. I'm going to set you up with a meeting. And I said, great. And this is out of the blue. I wasn't hitting him up going, hey, I need a manager or anything. And so I got set up with my manager now, Tiffany Couzon, and I went in, and she said, hey, what's up? And I told her, hey, yeah, I fired everybody. And she said, you fired everyone on your team? And I said, yeah. She asked me why I did that. And I said, well, they weren't doing their job, and I don't feel like having people on my team that are not doing the work.
Sure. Yeah.
And so she said, okay, what do you need? And I said, well, I just need you to get me in the room. I just need the opportunity, and I'll take care of the rest. Which is a belief that I have, is one of them, is that if you enter into an agreement with someone, as long as you're holding up your end and they're holding up their end, you're not going to want to go. You're not going to go anywhere because you both are going to work.
Absolutely. Works for both parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I told her, and said, hey, I'm not, looking to sign a contract, but I'll take care of my end. And she said, I can do that. So we embarked on that journey, and it's been so far it's been a fruitful one. So she's been able to provide me with the opportunities, and I've worked hard, and thanks to God, I have kept the anxiety out of that area.
Yeah.
Which has given me a huge amount of freedom to take risks and to do things. And that's just been the big game changer for me.
That's an incredibly inspiring story.
Oh, thank you, man.
Like to go homeless 3 times.
Yeah.
You often hear of stories where a person goes homeless and then they figure something out and then they don't ever go back to that. But for you to have that happen to you once, do something about it, happen to you again, do something about it, happen to you a 3rd time, and still have the, I don't even know what the right word is here, just like the ability or the dedication, the foresight, the passion, you name it, to just go, you know what, I'm going to get myself out of this. I've done it before, I can do it again. And then to push forward. I think is incredible. If we were a fly on the wall watching you as you were pulling yourself out of that part of your life, what would we have seen?
I think a lot of gratitude. My friend I remember he said to me, how are you, he would see me get up in the morning, I'd get up at whatever, 6:37. And I'd sit outside. This was in Los Angeles, and, it'd usually be sunny and nice and warm. And so I'd sit outside with a coffee or tea or something, and I would write some pages of, sort of stream of consciousness journaling, what you're feeling, experiencing, what you want, what you, how you can improve, these sorts of things. And he was like, I don't understand how you're how are you happy? Like, you can't even, and I was crashing on, he had a second bed, fortunately, and so I was crashing there. I wasn't paying him any rent. I mean, I could barely afford to pay for meals. And he's like, how are you happy when you can't afford to even pay rent? And I was like, man, I think what you're missing is the fact that I have a roof over my head right now. Is the fact, and for me, again, everything sort of goes through the lens of God for me. And I went, well, look at what he's provided me with here. So I have a roof over my head. I have people, I had friends who would come and drop off some groceries. It just humbles you in such a way that I go, oh, well, things are being provided. And I'm in this place to learn, to grow. So that's what this is. This is an opportunity to grow my character, to grow my tenacity, to grow my vision, to grow, And a lot of times, being in a place of comfort is a bad thing. That's where people can get lazy. Yeah. They lose their fire. They lose all these things, and they forget. And I think, part of that was what happened to me is I got comfortable with certain things, and then I remember feeling this looming this is going to hit a wall.
Yeah.
Because I had lost the fire in my belly and the appreciation. So I think if you were a fly on the wall, you would have seen appreciation and gratitude and yeah, that's the biggest thing.
You talked about Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, these great fighters who had to overcome a level of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Your adversity was battling through homelessness and trying to get your career on track and having to change the team around you and all of these different hurdles. You're now at a point where you're doing work more consistently. You just got married. Your life is moving in a much more positive direction.
Yeah.
How do you remain humble, grateful, and not let the success get to your head and wipe away the work that you had to do to overcome that adversity?
That's a good question. Again, I think it's what you place at the top, right? So if people place money at the top, that's an ego thing. Money, the way that I see it now, money is just a tool, right? What do you use money for? Use it to provide the roof over your head, feed your family, and yourself. Enjoy the world, right? If you need to really slave away and work and barely make ends meet, it's a stressful thing. When you don't have money, it can be very stressful. So the idea of losing that thing is going to be like sand slipping between your hands. It's going to cause a lot of anxiety if that's your number one thing.
Right.
So I think the thing that keeps that from happening for me is my faith, certainly, because I just go, oh, well, everything is given. It's not like, even though I'm having these things and these opportunities, which I'm so grateful for, I view it as a blessing. And I also go, okay, well, I'm putting in the work, so I'm not taking, every ounce of credit away from me. I'm not going like, well, I'm doing nothing. I'm clearly working hard and growing, but because I'm not having the concept of money or success, which that's another thing to get into, but as my number one, then you're seeing things with a grateful eye, with a humble eye, and going, oh, well, this is wonderful. What a blessing. I get to do this. What I do, I get to tell stories, and that helps people, you know. Whether it just be letting people unwind for the day. Sometimes someone goes, oh my gosh, this is kind of mimics my life and really spoke to me that I can actually do this. You know, I can't imagine how many people have said that, you know, sort of thing to like Sylvester Stallone, for example, to go like, oh my gosh, that movie changed my life. I was down and out. I did this, and then because I watched this movie, because I did this, I came out of this. So there's a huge amount of benefit to what we do. That being said, I don't think that we're out there being heart surgeons and you know, being like, oh my gosh, you had a bad heart, let me put a new one in. But there still is goodness at work there.
Incredible. What's the one lesson, if there's somebody out there that's listening to this, watching this, and hears you talk about your story and your journey, and they're currently on that cusp, they did the whole, I've gone to LA, I'm trying to make a career out of my life, and I'm on the border of being homeless, and there's quite a lot of that, and even just broader perspective in current economic times, there's a lot more people struggling to get by financially. What's one lesson that you took away from all of that you can maybe share with other people to say, hey, here's something that might help you get through this time?
Well, I mean, you probably know what I'm going to say for the number one thing, and that's faith, because it takes the onus off you, right? Like we go through life and we're so singularly focused on ourselves as if we're the center of the universe. It's just not the case. So it takes a lot of stress off. And then you're going to move these other things from being this number one spot, which is such a burden. I mean, it's a lot of weight to carry around. And then you're going to move into a place of appreciation for what you do have. And then the faith, or, you know, the belief that what you're going through is for a reason, especially if you can see where you want to go. And that's the other thing. So you got to work, in my opinion, and what I did and still do to this day, is, you know, positive affirmations. I speak to myself kindly.
Self-talk is huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
People don't understand. You know, you're creating new neural pathways in your mind. If you talk to yourself poorly, it's not a good thing. You know, people, I'm such an idiot, I'm this, I'm that. And you go like, no. Would you, and I always say to people, I'm like, would you say that to a kid? Like, if the kid messes up, falls off the bike, you're like, you're an idiot. You know that?
Yeah.
No, you don't. You're like, it's okay. You dust them off. You're like, get back up. You can do it. You know? And then you coach them.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know why you fell that time? Because you did this. Try not to do that. Focus. Look to here. You know? Pick a point to focus on. That's what, you know, when in life you need to pick a point to focus on. Right? So, being clear with where you want to go, what you want to achieve, and also keeping that from being your worth, like a place of ego, right? Because then you're just going to end up in the same spot. And that's why I think a lot of people in dire financial situations and things, you know, some people take their lives and things, and you go, you know, you're going to take your life for something that's temporary, something that you can work your way out of, you know, money. Like, what's money? Right? Like, what is success? A lot of people view success as money. I was just talking about this afternoon. They view success as some financial gain, some goal, with the idea that it's going to fix their life or make it better. And it's not true. It's a tool, and that's it. So you want to look at success. Success is probably far better measured by your life and what you have in it? Do you have happiness? Do you have love? Do you have a good family? Do you, like, what are you investing in? For me, money's just a tool. I look at, am I investing in, the relationship with my wife? Am I investing, first and foremost, with God? Am I investing in my friendships? When someone passes away, or someone, when they're recounting people, I've not, and I mean, maybe it's said somewhere, but I've not really heard someone say, oh, well, this person made a lot of money.
It's not the first thing people think of.
No.
Yeah.
They're always, this person was there when I needed them. They always picked up the phone. They came out, they flew out and saw me when I was having a hard time.
Yeah.
They helped me with this thing. They helped we built this together. We did this trip together. It's always time spent.
The experience.
Yeah.
The impression, the emotions.
Exactly. So that right there goes, okay, so what's more important is, certainly you need to make some money to be able to provide the basic needs, basic human needs. I mean,
Sure.
Shelter, food,
Yeah.
So.
But it's not the be all and end all.
It's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting documentary called, is it called Happiness? I think it's called Happiness. And there was a,
was it the study that they did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I botch this, correct me, please. But they looked at the basic, like what the amount of income was, or what the window was where people were most happy. And it was like, if they can't provide their basic needs, they're not happy because they're stressed the whole time. But there was like a window, I think it was like $60,000 to like $120,000 a year income, where they went, oh, this seems like sort of like this golden window where people are the most happy.
Yeah.
And then they went into why, and they went, well, typically in that arena, they're more community-based. So they'll be like, oh, it's better to have dinner with everyone because then we can all chip in.
Yeah.
We can all be like, you get the meat, we'll get the veggies, we'll all cook together.
Suddenly you're relationship building.
Relationship, exactly.
Yeah.
So then why are they more happy with the relationships versus like if you make a bunch of money and then you isolate?
Yeah. Which we hear quite often. A lot of people who made a ton of money talk about how lonely they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that more money doesn't necessarily solve that. And you can't buy relationships, at least authentic ones. You can't buy happiness. And it's a constant misnomer of the ability to buy things suddenly somehow contributes to your happiness, but you're doing it all really and truly in isolation.
Yep. And that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
So then right there, that shows me that money is not success.
Yeah.
Right? So who's more successful? The people that are making 60 to 120 and that are happy and have community and share their problems and their successes, and that's some real strength right there. Or the ones who are, become vastly wealthy and isolated and don't have close connection, often feel very depressed and ridden with anxiety, and that's certainly not it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that people can't be wealthy and have community, because I know some people that certainly are wealthy and have vast communities and a lot of friends and people that they surround themselves with and have real genuine connections. So I think that's a big goal to be, and oftentimes those people are very generous as well.
Yeah. So I want to pivot a moment here to go back to the career in the entertainment industry. Yeah. You are releasing a new show.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel, given everything that you've been through to get to this point now, where you're going around and you're having these conversations and you're doing the work? Talk to me about that.
I mean, it feels great. It feels, it's exciting. There's almost a objective point of view on it, to go like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Although it doesn't have the initial rush that when I was younger, when you had something coming out, and maybe that's because of doing it
you're a seasoned
over and over,
yeah.
Or perhaps it's just the point of view,
right.
Of going, oh, that's not my drug. Like I'm not getting the same hit that
Right.
I did, because my worth and confidence and position in the world is not wound up in that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas when I was younger, it was. So you'd get that, like, that hit, that ego. You know, when your ego gets inflated, it's almost a little bit of a rush. You know, you're getting a dopamine hit off that.
Right.
And now I'm getting the dopamine hit off of different things. You know, family,
And the
cold
new,
plunges.
yeah,
You know?
I did one recently. I think the first one I did it 3 times in a row in succession. I did the sauna, then the cold plunge.
Mm-hmm.
I lasted about 59 seconds. I was so desperate to hit that 1 minute mark, and I struggled, like the pain in the legs and the arms and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Got up, did the sauna again, came back, did 2 minutes and change. Was super proud.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to the sauna again, and my buddies were like, "Let's do it one more time." And I'm like, "All right, I just got to mentally gear up for this." And I don't know what it was, but as soon as I sat in that cold plunge, from the minute I got in,
Yeah.
I was dialed in, I was locked in. I ended up doing 5 minutes in it, and I was just like, this is the most incredible feeling
Yeah.
in the world. And I never understood the craziness of putting your body through really cold temperatures, but now I get it. I see, like, the refresh, the rejuvenation of the mind immediately afterwards, and for a couple of days after that too. You feel incredible.
Yeah.
So I see the full value of it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You're getting that dopamine, that release of dopamine, plus the liver shock proteins, but now we're getting into medical stuff.
Yeah. So tell me about the new show. Tell me what to expect. Where
Show-
can we catch it? The whole works.
Yeah, so this is the second season of Reacher. And Reacher is I believe, Amazon's biggest show that they have. Second season starts out with Reacher, and there's a body that falls somewhere in the woods in New York, out of a helicopter, thuds in the middle of the forest. And then some hikers find this body, and it turns out that it's one of Reacher's military members that he served with in this unit called the 110th. And then, sure enough, another body pops up. Turns out to be another guy from the 110th. So Reacher and Neely, who was in the first season with him, they start getting in touch with the other members of the 110th, and myself and Dixon, played by Surinder Swan, they're able to get in touch with us, and then we realize that pretty quickly that people are knocking off the members of the 110th.
Right.
So they're out to kill myself, Dixon, Neely, and Reacher. And we set about trying to find out who's doing this. And then so there's a lot of actions. We kill some guys that deserve it. And yeah, it's kind of it's really in the vein of, obviously, of season 1.
Yeah.
The sense of there's bad guys and they deserve what's coming.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
You excited about it?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I am. There's some really great fight scenes. The stunt guys did such a great job.
They don't get enough credit.
Man, they really
in
do
a lot of
not,
work.
man. They really don't.
Yeah.
So they just absolutely smashed it. I mean, a lot of times you see fight scenes and there's all these fancy things that you just go, well, that's not what you're doing in a real fight here. And seeing them, you go, yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you want to be brutal and efficient, and you're looking to hurt somebody when you're doing those things.
Yeah.
And so I think that one of the things that the audience really likes, is that it's simple. You're seeing, and I think a lot of people see this. They see things happen in the street. They see someone, robbing a place or hitting an old lady or doing something. And nowadays, a lot of people go, I'm not getting involved. Like, no, it's not worth it. I'm not doing it. People, this is a problem. And in Reacher's world, he goes, well, that's not right. and goes and
Gotta do something about it.
does something about it. And I think people fantasize about that kind of thing, you know? I mean, even as a kid, you'd fantasize about, well, if this bully comes up to me, I'd say, and you come up with some line that you think is cool, and in retrospect, it's probably not that cool. And then you know, and then in your imagination, you proceed to sort of like pummel him in this efficient way and then make him apologize. And then he's like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. And then the guy's a changed man, right?
Yeah. And everyone cheers you on.
Yeah. And so so that's what you go through in your life. And then as you get older, people are like, hey man, you can't just go and do that.
Yeah.
But then you see a show like Reacher and you go, yeah, man, that guy's standing up. He's got a good moral compass, and he's standing up for what's right. And this guy's not going to be able to just, you know, I mean, the show opens and it's in the trailer, so I can say it. Carjacking a lady, and he's holding her kid hostage, and she's at the bank, at the ATM, and he recognizes that something's wrong, and then looks back because she's glancing, and he says, you know, don't look back or whatever, and then asks her if she's being carjacked. She says, yeah, and he gets the details on that, and then goes and proceeds to smash the ever living hell out of the guy, and as an audience member, even as someone, I mean, I'm in the show, and I go, yeah, dude, that's what because if you think if someone's carjacking, you're like, what kind of person is going to go carjack and hold a kid hostage with a gun? Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. And
so you go, yeah, I think that you should have a lot of things broken. Like, you should be pulled out of a window and smashed. And on this type of show, you get to do that. And there's a certain amount of gratification to doing that, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Shaun, thank you so much for your time.
My man, thank you.
This flies.
Yeah.
But this was awesome. I had no idea what to expect from this conversation, particularly around the, you know, your origin story, we'll call it.
Yeah.
But I meant it when I said it was incredibly inspiring.
Thank you.
And the gratitude piece, I think, is the thing that I'm going to take away the most from this conversation, because being grateful for what you have sometimes can be very hard to do, because you look at what you don't have, because you're comparing yourself quite often to other people, the people in your circle, the people you're competing with, you name it, right? If you go to an audition and then you see the guy who ends up getting the role, you're comparing you to him and so forth. So being grateful for what you currently have, being grateful for the fact that you and I get to have this conversation here and now, and, you know, spend an hour together and talk.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you know, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for your time. So thank you so much.
Dude, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
And good luck with everything. Best of luck on the show. And I'm going to be tuning in.
Thank you.
I just talked to that guy.
Hey.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shaun.
Hey, thank you, brother.
Thanks, everyone.